Welcome to the Trust Factor Radio, bringing you interviews and insights to unlock the power of the subconscious mind to create authority, credibility, and trust. With your host, the Authority Architect and best-selling author, Neil Howe.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is your host, Neil Howe, and today my guest is Brett Farmiloe. He is the CEO and founder of Markitors.com, and he helps small businesses connect with customers through digital marketing services. If you Google digital marketing company, you should find his company, Markitors, on the first page of Google search results. His company has been named a best place to work both years he's been in business since forming the company in 2016. He is driven by two statistics: that 80% of businesses go out of business within 5 years, and that 70% of the workforce dislike what they do for a living. Well, that's going to be fun to talk about. Brett Farmiloe, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Neil.
Well, tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background and how and why you started Markitors.
Sure. So I started as a financial auditor out of school. I majored in accounting and was a corporate auditor for a while, taking a look at financial statements, balance sheets, stuff like that. And I just kind of got sick of that. So I actually founded this website. It was called pursuethepassion.com. Basically, myself, 3 buddies, we traveled around the country for 2 summers in recreational vehicles and interviewed people about their career paths to figure out how they got to where they are today, basically so that other people like myself could be inspired with different career paths and could figure out how to get in the right career situation. And so that was kind of my first foray into marketing. And it really turned me on to stuff like Google Analytics and starting a website and seeing how different pieces of content and things that you're doing in the offline world could drive online results. So that kind of just enlightened me to marketing. Worked a couple marketing jobs before starting my own agency, and then basically was a freelancer for about 4 years with Markitors before I got our company to rank on the first page of Google for a digital marketing company and hired our first employee. And today we're about 16 employees here in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Excellent. Well, there's a correlation there that I see that, 80% of businesses go out of business within 5 years and 70% of the workforce dislike the job that they're in. Is that where you were when you were in that finance job? You just, this isn't me. I need to do something that is more of who I am. And you went out on the road to find out what that was?
I'll tell you a real quick story. So when we were auditing our client, we were basically like holed up on the 8th floor and our client was down on the 3rd floor. So one day I was walking down like as slow as possible down the staircase to get to our client because I just wasn't feeling it. And I literally said, I hate my job in this stairwell, thinking that I was alone. And there was someone in there that was like 2 flights above me. And he's like, why don't you just quit? And I'm like, yeah, it's actually probably a good call. So I don't know. It was just kind of a funny serendipitous thing that got me started. But yeah, back to those two stats. Definitely a driver in both directions. And I think that they're actually, you mentioned correlation between the two. It's kind of funny because it's really hard to find talent and keep talent engaged. And that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I've had as a business owner is creating structures and things that keep employees engaged. Because if you keep employees engaged and keep them, the majority of them, satisfied with their work, then I feel like that statistic gradually reduces in terms of the number of businesses that are going out of business. But it's a crazy ride.
Yeah, I've interviewed a lot of different people from all different businesses, as well as read a lot of books. And, the thing that keeps on coming up is you've got to love what you do. That's when people have success, is when they found that thing that they're passionate about, because it no longer feels like work. It feels like something that they enjoy doing.
For sure.
Is that what you've found in keeping people happy at work as well? Finding the right people?
Yeah. I mean, let's go back to the road trip, because we basically interviewed over 300 people about finding passion in work. I wrote a book about it. I've given about 100 keynote speeches across the country about finding passion in work. And yeah, that's at the core of all successful people and all successful businesses, is just being aligned with that energy that you can have to produce awesome results. Because if you're super passionate about anything from backlinking to social media to whatever it is, you're going to dive in deeper and find the distinctions that actually make the difference.
And there's certainly a lot of people out there that are very passionate about that kind of thing and what they do. And there's also businesses out there that have absolutely no time for it, and they need a service like yours to help them do all these things. So talk to me about some of the clients that you serve. Are you in any particular niche, or are you all across the board?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, our company journey so far, because our mission statement is to connect small businesses with customers and have a good time doing it. And the reason why it's small businesses is because I feel like that's where we can make the biggest impact. Basically, what happened was, like I said, I was a freelancer, and Markitors was kind of just like my brand. And then that one day that Google decided to shine some light on us on that first page, started getting calls from everywhere across the country that were like, "Hey, tell me about your digital marketing company." I'm like, "Well, it's just me kind of sitting in the living room right now. I don't have pants on either." And so eventually I was like, you know what? I should probably actually just form a company and make it happen. So in terms of clientele, we have kind of just taken what Google has given us in order to form our company. We're kind of at a point now where we are ready to specialize in something and become really good at it, because as a result of ranking for digital marketing company, what's happened is that we'll get calls from anyone from an executive search firm to a credit repair company to a software company in the UK to a personal assessment company to a tour company in Hawaii. So there's really no rhyme or reason to it, because anyone can Google, "Hey, I need a marketing company. Let me go to Google and find one." And right now we're that shop that is taking those calls and trying to figure it out for different clients. At some point, though, we're going to have to specialize and go in a different direction.
Right. And one of the things that people may not realize when they're calling in to a digital marketing company is just how much information that you need to have about that company to do a great job. So it takes a lot of work for you to get into all the stories and the statistics and the audience and everything else that you need to know about the company. It is easier for you if you niche down, because once you're familiar with one, you can easily transition into another company. Yeah,
for sure. It just comes down to process. And the way that we've been able to get onboarded fairly quickly is just going back from that time as a financial auditor. Those skills really help train me in terms of asking the right questions and figuring out the different insights that really have that breakthrough and tie the story together. So, that's trickled down to our process and, the employees that work here. So it's how we've been able to get by. I think for us to, evolve and get to that next level and continue this journey we're on, we could keep doing the digital marketing company stuff, which is great, and it's worked out. But at some point we got to focus on what we're best at.
Well, I'm sure once you decide what that is, if you're able to rank for digital marketing company, you certainly know what you're doing, and to be able to rank for anything. Tell me about the problems that your clients have. What is the major problem that they call you with?
Yeah, mainly it's about online visibility and generating more leads for their business so they can grow in a sustainable way. So for us, the main thing that we like to do is just increase that visibility online through organic search and complement that with email marketing, social, some paid advertising as well, because SEO does take time. So those three other tactics are nice ways to generate some immediate results based on the assets that they have in place. So the main thing is business owners want to grow that bottom line, and in order to grow the bottom line, they need more leads. And based on what we've been able to do for clients, we've been able to help out quite a few different small businesses do that.
So talk to me about the SEO, because that, really can be the backbone of the whole marketing campaign. What kind of things are working with SEO? What do you do for your clients?
Sure. There's really three components to the SEO efforts that we focus on. The first one's link building. Second one is content. And then the third one is the technical aspects of SEO. So when we look at some of the different client success stories that we have, one company we took, it was actually one of our very first clients. They've been a client now for about 6.5 years. And, we took them from a brand new website, 0 visits, brand new company name, and now they're getting about 60,000 monthly visitors through organic search, just through those three different things that I just talked about: link building, content, and the technical aspect. A lot of what their success has been from, because I think that a lot of people would be interested in the second component of content that you could create right now. The kind of the formula that we approach for small businesses and business owners is we'll create localized resource pages. Those have been really successful. So, for example, it's like the top 5 executive search firms in Atlanta or Phoenix, where we're at, and basically list out, our client and then some of the different competitors in the space. And that's a really good way to just develop a nice resource page for Google to index that has a high intent to convert. So that's one component of it. The second component is just the long tail keywords that answer customer FAQs. So in servicing small businesses, basically you're going up, for example, if you're an equipment financing company and you're a small family-owned business, been around for 40 years, but you're competing against Wells Fargo or like a big bank, there's no way that you're going to outrank Wells Fargo for equipment financing. So you need to find a different way to focus on the keywords that Wells Fargo isn't focused on. And in that case, we've taken quite a few companies using that approach of just doing some really good keyword research, which is very similar to auditing. It's finding those opportunities through search and then just creating content that targets those keywords. And that's been a great way. That's pretty much our bread and butter. Every month we're creating, unique pieces of content for clients and measuring the results.
And, even though you rank for digital marketing company, which is, a massive keyword, obviously, do you find people want to come to you and just rank for these big keywords all the time?
Yeah, and it's not impossible. You gotta build a really solid foundation before you are able to competitively rank for those core keywords. So, in my case, it took us 4.5 years basically to be able to get on that first page for a digital marketing company. But that's also just me. Like, that was just me out there doing link building, developing content. So, for an average company, if you really put some investment and time into it, I feel like you should be able to accomplish an SEO goal, depending on the difficulty of it, probably within 6 to 12 months. So, if you're starting today and you're a brand new site and you're going after a really competitive keyword, like a marketing company type of keyword, that difficulty is really high. So the length of time, expands quite a bit. But if you're going after something that has some opportunities, then, it's just about developing that strategy and plan to get there.
And even when you look at those big keywords, what percentage of the overall traffic does that bring in? For yourself, for example.
Yeah. So most of it is on the long tail keyword stuff. So for blog posts and other landing pages that we're building, probably about 80% of the traffic that our clients get, that we get, is based off of all those different pieces of content. And then for that main keyword, it's probably about 20% of traffic.
Right, and that's where I was trying to get to was, the main keywords that everybody thinks about as a business owner probably only produce that 20% of the traffic. It's all those long-term, long-tail questions that people are asking about the business that tend to drive in a lot more traffic.
Yeah, for sure. And then it's just taking a look at the conversions that are coming in as well. Because you probably have the majority of your conversions come in from that core keyword, even though the traffic's a little bit lower. Whereas, it's just a longer sales funnel for to try to get people in through the blog posts and things like that.
So once you've got traffic coming to the site, I know you do email marketing and help with that. How important is it to set up an email marketing campaign for your clients?
Yeah. So the majority of people don't convert, when they go to a website. So email marketing is important because it just increases the chances of you actually getting a client from it. So if only 2% of your traffic's converting through organic search or paid or whatever it is, and you have an email pop-up that comes up and says, hey, before you leave, give us your email address, join our newsletter, get an ebook, whatever, schedule a consultation, whatever it is, that's maybe another like 1 to 2% opt-in rate. But that's 1 to 2% that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So you're basically doubling the chances that you'll get to get a customer from the existing traffic that you have. So email marketing is super important in that regard, just because you want to be doing everything that you can to maximize the traffic that's coming to your site.
Really? And what kind of things do you do as far as website development to really help convert a visitor into a customer?
Yeah, well, you know what? It's kind of funny. We used to develop a lot of sites, and now we've kind of shied away from that and focused more on giving the advice for internal teams to make those calls. We just felt like, going back to earlier in our conversation about specializing and doing all things to all people, just found that from a web development perspective, we were much better at telling people what to do than actually doing it. So that's kind of what we focus on now from a conversion rate optimization standpoint.
So, but what kind of things on the page do you find that, some businesses lack, or there might not be a clear plan or path to go once somebody lands on a website? What kind of things really make a difference to get people to take action? Yeah, I think, one of the biggest trends that's going on right now that has been going on for years is just the mobile experience. And it's funny because I think maybe a couple weeks ago, probably got like 50 emails from Google that was like, mobile first indexing has been enabled for xyz.com or whatever. And it just goes, and then I got, another 30 emails from clients that were like, hey, what's this about? And if mobile's not at the forefront of your experience, then you're going to miss out on a lot of conversions. Like mobile first over desktop is something that a lot of websites still need to transition into. So, we've got several clients that have built out this great desktop experience, but the majority of their traffic is eventually going to be mobile if it's not today. So that's probably the number one thing, is just making sure that that the experience converts really well on mobile devices. And then we've got the voice recognition devices as well, like Google Home and Alexa. Are they becoming more prevalent when it comes to Google searches?
Yeah, I think there's some stat out there that says, I think 15-20% of all searches now are voice activated. And what that does, it just gives us more justification and more material in terms of doing our keyword research so that we can create that content. So when someone does a voice search, we've got some content there that matches up with that. So that kind of just justifies the long tail keyword approaches that many companies are taking with their content strategies.
And as far as moving forward with content, what is going to be the role of video and things like this, a podcast, in the future?
Yeah, that's really interesting. We've had a couple clients with podcasts and videos and producing that. Um, I think that here's the thing with SEO right now, and where I think it's kind of going is it's all about brands. And the reason why Google cares so much about brands is branding, and creating a brand is probably the hardest thing to manipulate on the internet right now. And the internet, you've got so many people just creating content, and it's basically a cesspool of content. And so Google has this challenge of, okay, with all these pieces of content, if, here's one search term and we've got a video to index, we've got 15 blog posts to index, there's a podcast, how do we know which one to index? And I think where it's going is the stronger your brand is, the more likely you'll perform better in organic search, mainly because if I create a podcast today and it's just like I don't have a brand associated with it, there's not a lot of trust involved in that. So basically what I'm trying to say is that video and podcasts are great because they help develop your brand, and the more branding that you have around your company, the more trusted I think that your content will be in Google's future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's definitely one of the reasons that I started this podcast, The Trust Factor, because it does develop trust in the marketplace, and it obviously gives you a platform to share what you're doing as well, which has worked really well and been very well accepted by people. Talk to me, Brett, about some of the misconceptions or the myths that people have about digital marketing.
Yeah, that's really fun. That's a really fun question, because my favorite thing, probably one of my favorite things to do just in a day is just go to Google autocomplete and just start typing in, a question that you have. And so when you're talking about misconceptions, I like to just go in and say, is SEO, and then just let Google autocomplete that, or is link building, and then let it autocomplete. And so if you do that on a Google search now, you'll come up with, is SEO dead? Is link building worth it? Stuff like that highlight the misconceptions based on search activity. And so I think those are some of the main misconceptions, is that SEO has been around for so long. There's so many taboos associated with it, and people are like, oh, it's dead. And I think that's really false, because people still use Google and they still search. So I think that's you could argue that the number of searches is plateauing, and there probably won't be as many searches. Like, people can only conduct so many searches. But SEO is still alive and well. I mean, the fact that people still do search Google and they'll click, on the first page of search results, then that's probably one of the biggest misconceptions that I get, is just, is SEO worth it? Is link building still the way to go about this? Stuff like that hasn't really changed from a core philosophy, but the tactics have definitely changed along the way.
Well, speaking of tactics, that's a great tactic that you can use there to start, really seeing what people are asking Google and putting yourself out there to answer those kind of questions. I guess that works across the board, not just with SEO.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, in terms of tactics for digital marketing, is that what you're asking?
Well, just developing content to answer questions that people are obviously asking.
Oh, yeah. No, that's one of my favorite go-tos, especially if you're a small business and you're looking to compete against larger players. Your larger players are not answering those questions in the form of a blog post. Very few of them are. And so that's a really good content strategy now, is to get in, answer those questions that customers have, and use everything that Google offers you to actually answer the right questions. Because you could use Google autocomplete, you could use Google's search suggestions at the very bottom of the page, you could use Google's keyword planner to find out search volumes, you could use Google Analytics to see what kind of traffic's coming to your site right now, and create variations of that. And then you could use Google Search Console to figure out, what are the different search queries now that you don't have content for that Google is on the cusp of ranking you for, and create content around that.
Yeah, there's definitely a ton of data out there now, and Google really gives us access to all of it to look into it. But you have to be that analytical person like yourself to really know what it all means. And that's why people come to you for help, because it's not something that everybody enjoys. Speaking of help, give us some examples, Brett, of some companies that you have helped here over the years. What kind of problems did they have when they came to you? What was the solutions for them? And ultimately, what was that transformational outcome?
Yeah, I guess I'll give you one David versus Goliath story. So we had a credit repair company that came to us March of 2016. They had about 20 visitors a day to their site. And they were going up against really large billion-dollar companies in the credit repair space. And, they needed leads. And you're looking at all the different tactics that are available. You immediately go to Google AdWords or paid ads, and the cost per click for their industry is pretty much owned by these billion-dollar companies. So every cost per click is like $30 or $50. And which immediately prices out a small business that, if they're getting 20 visits a day, they can't really afford to pay, a $50,000 a month type of PPC budget. So PPC is kind of out. So they're like, all right, what else can we do? So we employed our SEO strategy. And now, through those resources pages that I was talking about earlier, through answering customer FAQs, basically four different blog posts per month, consistently over the last 2.5 years. Now they're probably one of the most visited credit repair websites out there, so that they get about 1,000 users a day now. So they've had about 50x growth over the last 2 years.
That is tremendous results. And, what I say to many people when they're asking about SEO and digital marketing is you really just have to stick with it and be consistent in what you do. And, the results will come if you keep it up. There's so many companies out there that, try something. If it hasn't worked in 60 to 90 days, they move on and try the next company. Do you still see that kind of thing happening? And what kind of fears are they having that, really stops them making that commitment with one company?
Yeah, I think it's just a lack of understanding and communication pretty much every time. Either from the outset when the salesperson's talking with a client and basically illustrating expectations, and all the way through that journey of when they say, hey, we're not going to continue with the service. So I think that's the main thing for any agency operating and offering services, or if you're a business owner and you're just looking to find the right agency or the right help. You've got to have established benchmarks that are measuring your success. And then you've got to have that communication in place that helps you understand what's being done. Because without understanding, that's when the fear creeps in. And that's when, people jump ship and go look for someone else.
So if somebody is listening to this and they're looking to find a digital marketing company to do work for them, what are the important questions that they should be asking to make sure they're finding the right company? Yeah,
that's a great question. So there's probably several. I would ask if it were me and I'm starting a brand new business, let's just say pet grooming, and I'm going out there trying to find someone that could help me grow a pet grooming company. I'm asking a bunch of different agencies what they've done in the pet grooming space, because if you're able to specialize and do it repeatedly, for example, I just talked about credit repair. I would feel really confident as an SEO agency to go help out another credit repair company. So that's what I would ask is, I wouldn't ask necessarily, you could ask for case studies, But really, that's all I'm looking for is what kind of industry experience do you have in my space for my business? That's the number one question that I would ask. And then from there, you can ask a bunch of other things like who's actually going to be doing the work on my account. I feel like that's really important because, again, going back to what I said about why relationships fall apart, it's because of that lack of communication, and you should establish communication up front with who you're going to be communicating with. So I think that's another good question. And then probably third one, I would just ask, you'll probably get really generalized answers on this, but just getting some sort of feel for their process and how they report on results. Analytics are going to be huge along the way, even though some people may or may not understand it. Those reports will come through and people will be like, well, this is great. But what reporting does is it forces agencies to make sure that they're meeting their deliverables. And so, because if Judgment Day is coming and we're going to talk tomorrow, you better believe that I'm doing everything today to make sure that your account is in a good place. So, that would be the third thing, is just say, how often are we going to talk? Because I want to talk weekly and make sure that we're in a good place until I have a great comfort level, and you guys can continue to run. So I feel like that's really important. And one other thing to keep in mind from a business owner standpoint is that every time you're creating more work for yourself when you jump ship from agency to agency, because those first 90 days require a lot of hand-holding so that the agency really understands your business, and a lot of effort on your part to make sure that everything is going smoothly.
Yeah, very good points there. Now, Brett, if somebody wants to reach out to you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Google digital marketing company, find Markitors, and submit a contact form through our site. That'd probably be the best way.
And I'll leave your contact information in the website, but spell out that domain name for me. Yeah,
it's Mark, M as in Mary, ARKITORS.com.
Markitors.com. Well, Brett Farmiloe.
There you go.
Farmiloe, yeah, it's a bit of a tongue twister there. He's the founder and CEO of Markitors. Thank you very much for being my guest on the Trust Factor Radio today.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
And to our listening audience, if you like what you hear, hit that like button and share, and we'll see you next time on the show.
You've been listening to the Trust Factor Radio with Neil Howe. To learn about the resources mentioned in the show and to listen to past episodes, go to thetrustfactorradio.com. To get a copy of the book, The Trust Factor, go to thetrustfactorbook.com. If you are ready to act now and build your authority, credibility, and trust, schedule a consultation with Neil at theauthorityarchitect.com.